Hi, I'm Matt Schwartz, president of the Temple at Israel Bres Sholem in Louisville, Kentucky, and I am standing here with Rabbi Rick Jacobs, who is the president of the Union for Reform Judaism. So that's the umbrella organization that the Temple has been a part of for close to 175 years.
You were there at the very beginning, 1873, when Isaac Mayer Wise, whose picture you have up in your archives, when he started the UAC, you were there. Pretty remarkable to think of the longevity and the amount of commitment this congregation has demonstrated through all of the iterations of Reform Judaism in North America. Impressive.
Thank you. I'm only the one in a long line. But so Reform Judaism in the United States, tell me about the state. Where do we fit in terms of that overall state of Reform Judaism?
So when we started back in the day, 1873, we were just a little teeny fledgling movement. And Rabbi Wise could not have imagined. We have grown to be the largest movement in Jewish life here in North America. And that gives us strength to lead our Jewish community, be able to help reinvent Jewish life, make it more inclusive. Interfaith families are a part of our movement. They're not yet welcomed in all parts of the Jewish world, but that's the wave of the future. Reinventing what learning is in our congregation. So our movement is strong, it's large, but it's always changing. Reform, it's actually the thing that we do. We don't ever say this is all it can be, it's finished now for the rest of the time. We're always doing what our ancestors did to think, what does this moment require? And adjust and adapt to that moment.
So we spent some time with our board earlier and just got to spend some quality time talking, interacting a bit. And you led us down a path of talking about what are the positives, the blessings that are happening, and we can eventually get to what are some challenges or concerns. So I know we talked about a couple of the kind of key blessings, and let's quickly recap. What we heard.
Well, I would say that one of the strengths of this congregation clearly is the ability to think strategically. And I remember very distinctly one of our board members here at the Temple said, I think he's the president of the men's club, Brotherhood, pivot. To be able, when you know that something served us well, but no longer, let's pivot. Let's experiment. We may not hit it right the first time, but let's not be afraid to try new things. People will tell us, you're the president. I bet you the people tell you when they like something, and they tell you when they don't. So let's keep experimenting. So that's one of the secrets, I think, of a strategic leadership, which we talked about. What are the ways that we make engagement, not just for our youngest, but for all of us?
Right.
How do we think about youth, engagement? We think of Temple Youth Group. Well, less so today, but that doesn't mean we can't engage our teens. So it seemed to me that this temple is doing a great job asking the right questions. And not, there's no book that has the way in which 21st century Judaism is going to unfold. And I'll just say that in the day when my predecessor, Rabbi Maurice Eisendrath, in 1953, was offered the chance to buy an overnight camp, he said, I pulled out at the archives the letter. He said, why do we want to have camps? That's not what we do. We do synagogues.
Right.
And they convinced him, said this could be really powerful to engage young people in an immersive Jewish experience. Turned out they were right, he was wrong. He was right about pretty much everything else. But I think that's one example that sometimes the Judaism that, frankly, we can't imagine not having, we didn't always have.
Right.
And, think about women in Jewish life. It's 1972, we have our first woman rabbi, first Temple presidents. Think of this congregation without the strength of the women of this congregation. You couldn't.
Well, of course, we had the first woman rabbi in Kentucky.
There you go. There you go. So she helped change people's mind and update them on what could be. So this is what we've always been, and you're doing in this historic 175-year-old congregation. You're not resting on your laurels. You could.
Sure.
But that wouldn't actually be what your ancestors did and what we're counting on you to do.
Well, and we also talked about, starting with why, meaning how do you engage, how do you pivot, how do you do things the right way? It has to start from why. And that's a key concept.
It seems obvious, but so many leadership circles are busy with what are we doing, how many times we're doing it, when are we doing it, and someone just call the timeout and say, can I just ask, what's the purpose of that? How does that serve the core of what we're about? And you know what? You end up stripping away a lot of things that you just keep doing because it's sort of the habit of the institution. So the why reminds us what's at the heart of it. And if we can't figure out why, that probably is something that we ought to let go of. But I think it's a habit of the successful leaders we see, probably in more than just synagogues. But our Judaism is always about the why. What's unique about what we do? There's so much. Let's focus and build off of that.
And we talked a little bit about, the concerns that are out there. And so certainly engagement was one.
Sure.
And we talked about some, potential paths there. Just we focused in on kids. But again, like with Nifty, the Nifty may not be the thing today, but there's other paths that we might take in terms of engaging our youth.
Absolutely. And by the way, Nifty, which is the North American Federation of Temple Youth, is still alive and well. It's not alive and well in every community. And you know what? We're not like every community. There are things that are common to the
Right.
temple here and pretty much everywhere. And there are things that are unique. So we actually want to pay attention to those things that are unique. And we want to learn, by the way, from being part of the movement. One of the great things is that you can be inspired by something happening in Fayetteville, Georgia. You say,
Right.
what are they doing? They're doing something pretty unique. Well, let's hear about it. And you can then share with Fayetteville, Georgia, what you're doing. So it's also the power of being a movement, drawing strength from every part of this community. And we're spread out all over North America. We're different sizes. Some are much younger than 175 years. But this is a community called the Reform Movement, and it's powerful when we do our work together.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, we've enjoyed having you here. We're going to make it to services here on Friday night. And we thank you. We appreciate you being here to help us celebrate.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure. Mazel tov on this great occasion.
Thank you so much.